Teaching to me is life experience. When you come down to it, teaching is the force that helps other students. What you have learned, help other students learn some of the things that you have learned and pass that information on to them and help the students see how they can make a difference in the world too.
Hello, I'm Suzu Igarashi Hayes with Kizuna Project. Today, we were welcoming our guest, Evelyn Yanagihashi. Evelyn, do we have a permission to record this session?
Yes, you do.
This interview is being recorded on October 25th, 2025 in Tucson, Arizona. Evelyn, thank you very much for being here today. Could you state your full name, birthday, and birthplace?
Yes, my full name is Evelyn Kodama Yanagihashi. And the date of birth is 1934 in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Thank you very much. Can you tell me about your grandparents?
Yes, my grandparents are from Japan, from Yamaguchi-ken, Japan. And my grandfather was the one that came to Hawaii at their father and I guess wanted to work in the sugar plantation there. And he was working there for several years in the early 1900s when he wanted to start a family. And therefore, he went back to his homeland and requested a bride to be sent to him from Japan to Hawaii to begin a family. My grandmother was also living in Japan, and at that time, and she belonged to a rather prominent family, or that's what she told me. But she's and and she also wanted to get married too, and so the parents brought my grandfather and my grandmother together. My grandfather sent a picture of himself in Hawaii, riding on a horse, dressed in a suit, and looking very regal and very handsome, sitting there on the horse. And so my grandmother, of course, fell in love with the picture, and the family all got together to bring them together. They were married. She married this picture in Japan, and along with many, many, many picture brides, they got onto the ship on sail to Hawaii. The ship took, imagine, 40 days, about 2 weeks, before they finally docked in Hawaii, and they saw this group of men, many hundreds of men, lined up holding pictures of the intended bride, and they also got married to picture brides. Well, the rule in Hawaii was at that time, the law saying you cannot be an immigrant coming to Hawaii. So dockside, as they were getting brides off the ship, they, of course, matched their pictures with their future husbands, and they got married right there on dock.
Dockside marriage.
And that's how they met.
Right. Now, can you tell me about your parents?
My parents, my father was also from Japan. And the reason why he was in Hawaii at that time was because his older brother, had gone to Hawaii to work. Now, this is about 15 years after my grandparents were there. And they came as laborers, skilled laborers, not to work in the sugar plantations. And so they ended up in Honolulu, and they worked as tinsmith and did other odd jobs there. And there was a ruling at that time that if you are a single male, you can bring a family member over. So my uncle requested my grandfather his father, to go to Hawaii with him. And so his father came over, and his grandfather requested my father, his son, to come over. So that's how my father got to go to Hawaii.
How about your mother?
My mother was, as I mentioned earlier, she was born with my grandparents. My grandparents, through the Fukunagas, were actually came over earlier, and then they worked in a plantation, and from there, my mother was born, along with a number of other children. About 9, 10 children were born, and that's where she was born. She, as I mentioned earlier, is the eldest of she became the eldest after some of her elder brothers and sisters passed away.
Okay. So somehow they got married one point?
Okay, how they met was my father happened to be a relative of my mother's, and so I was never told how they were related, but from what I can hear or from what we can tell by genealogy, they were, I think, distant cousins. So my grandfather and my grandparents were cousins, and then they, I guess, allowed their daughter to get married to one of their cousins.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how my grandfather and the grandmother got married.
Okay. What did they do for living?
My parents did for a live after they got married, and they obtained a grocery store. After my father came back from the sanitarium because he was ill, the tuberculosis, that they ran a grocery store. And so that's what they did for a living. They worked the grocery stores together. At that time, of course, my father could not own the grocery store because he was not a citizen. He was from Japan. Therefore, he was a non-citizen. But my mother, because she was born in Hawaii, she became a U.S. citizen. So she owned the store, but they both ran the store. And the living quarters was just behind the store. And that's where I grew up, my family.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to move on to your generation. How did you learn about the war in the United States? You were 7 when the United States entered World War II.
That is correct. Now, it started on a beautiful Sunday morning in Hawaii. On Sunday morning, December 7, 1941, as you mentioned, I was 7 years old. My father had owned the grocery store for several years, and it was a wonderful. It was a regular day, and my mother told me, "Now, Evelyn, don't eat anything because I'm making breakfast, and don't spoil your breakfast." But I was not listening to her. I was naughty. I stole some chocolate-covered graham crackers. And guess what I did? I sneaked through the kitchen and into the store where my father was working with my hand full of chocolate-covered graham crackers. And I was going to run over to the front part and run down the sidewalk and eat it there. And so as I was running through the store, all of a sudden, I heard a huge boom. And I was shocked, And then there were some guys sitting outside the store, chit-chatting that Sunday morning. And they all got up and they say, "War, war!" And they began running home and running. And there was a commotion all throughout the neighborhood and whatever. And I didn't know what was happening, I didn't know what war meant. I mean, that was not part of my vocabulary. And so I began running with the fellas and whatever, and one of them took a hold of me and walked me back to the store when my father was closing up the store and, and putting up the shutters and everything else, and then put me back in the store and took me home. Well, then my mother was, saying, "Look, all of a sudden I looked at my hand and opened up my hand, and the chocolate-covered graham crackers were all mushy and melted and whatever. And then this thing said, "Bachigataru," which means bad things will happen if you don't listen to your parents and you do some bad things, you know. And I thought, oh my gosh, I started this big commotion that's going on. And I thought, later on, I found out what the war meant. And I thought, oh my gosh, I started World War II.
What an experience.
But later on, I found out, as an adult, I realized that Japan had bombed Pearl Harbor and the artillery shells were being bombed all over, trying to shoot down the shells, and found out that many fell on Honolulu and caused this explosion.
Wow.
And then I realized that I didn't start World War II, but still this Bachigataru became something that was part of me.
Yeah, rooted in you.
Correct. And the person that wrote the book, Wounded Tiger, gives you the true picture of actually what happened on the day and the fault of the Japanese people who fought military.
Thank you very much for sharing the very personal story.
So, by the way, Martin Bennett went down to, I think it was Spouts, and he bought some chocolate cracker, and so I couldn't eat them when I was 5 years old, so he gave me a whole box.
Oh, that's nice of you. So, you were 7 years old when World War II happened. You were already a student. What kind of a student were you back then?
Yes, when World War II started, I was in the second grade. And obviously, I was a person, my grandmother always said, be the best that you can be. So therefore, I tried my very, very best in school. And I really enjoyed being in school because I knew that would lead to my future as becoming an educator and a teacher. And so I was a very good student. In fact, in Japanese school, we line up to go into classes, and all of us in the morning went to the English school, and English school concluded about 2:00, 2:30 or so. Then we went to Japanese school, and we lined up. And the thing is, you lined up according to your scores that you make in classrooms. And I made the highest score in my second grade class. And but the thing is, we were under, what shall I say, the Japanese tradition. And so they would prefer to have a male student be the top of the class. And so the person who did second place got to switch places with me, and I got to be second. So that was my experience.
How did you find out that you were actually top of the class?
The interesting thing is that the teacher who taught the second grade told my father, who happened to be there to see the students all line up, and he told my father that that your daughter was but because of the Japanese tradition, we have to put a male person first.
How did you feel about that?
I thought that was the way things ran. I mean, I wasn't angry or whatever. I was just, that's the way the Japanese schools ran. I mean, they put the male student first. And because of the fact that the Japanese community believed male superiority. And so you just go with the flow. Go with the rules.
Is it part of Japanese culture or Japanese teaching that make you think that way?
Good question. I think when you're young and you grow up in a situation like this, you just accept things that are. And I didn't think I wasn't angry. I wasn't disappointed. I just thought that's the way it is. That's okay. And I just went along with it.
しょうがない.
Yeah, shoganai. That's a good. So I did grow up in the Japanese culture.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So how do you explain shogunai in English?
Shoganai in English would be something like if something happens and you can't make a difference, then you are going to let it be. Let it be, and that would be the outcome. Then you will not, confront it, you would not change it, you would let it be. Shoganai.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. After grade school, did you pursue further education?
Well, when I went on to middle school, and then from I completed middle school at Washington Intermediate School, and then we were all set to go to high school. And at that time, one of my classmates approached me and said, "Hey, did you know that there was a school called University High School that are accepting applicants? Would you like to apply? Would I understand that there's going to be an interview, and would you go with me to this interview?" And I said, "Sure. You be the best that you can be," And so I decided to go with her. And then we both went to the interview together, and I got interviewed, she got interviewed. And after all the interviews were completed, they made the selection as to who were going to be part of this second graduating class, University High School. And guess what? I was elected and to go to University High, and she was not. So I felt so bad for her because she really wanted to be part of this student body. But that's the way sometimes it goes. Shogunai. That's the way it is.
Okay. How was your life at the high school?
My life in the high school was very interesting because at that time I grew up in elementary school and middle school where the Japanese community was really, the Japanese people were the majority of the classmates that I went to school with. At this university high school, the majority of people were Caucasians, and they were the daughters, the children of military men who were admirals and generals and sergeants and all this, and they didn't want their children to go to a public school, so they wanted them to go to a school that had more Caucasians than or the Orientals. And so it was a little different, but it gave me a chance to work with and get to understand some Caucasians.
Okay, great. Were you taking leadership at the school?
Well, I noticed that they have a class secretary for the freshmen and sophomores and juniors and seniors. And so when I became a senior, I decided that maybe I should run for office. And so I ran as a high school. In high school, the senior class secretary. And so I ran for high school senior class secretary position.
How did that turn out?
That was my first experience really becoming in politics, And so there are two of us that ran, Joan and myself. Joan's father happened to be a military officer, and of course I was me. and I was very humble. I knew that Jane would be disappointed if she didn't win, and so the thing is, when the ballot came around, I voted for Joan instead of voting for myself. And it had just so happened that, of course, she won the election. And later on, after the election was won by her, there were some friends of mine who helped with the election and who counted the ballots and whatever, said, "Evelyn, you lost by one vote." In other words, I was the one who voted for her instead of for me. Otherwise, I would have gotten the position. But, I was okay with that. I was glad she won and, got the But it's a lesson that I learned that sometimes you have to be less humble and sometimes think about your own future.
Thank you. How about college?
After I graduated from university, high school, there were 26 in our graduating class. Then I always wanted to become a teacher, and I always wanted to go to University of Hawaii. And so when I graduated from high school, I, of course, enrolled in University of Hawaii, and I started my career at the university.
Okay. At the university, did you also take leadership role?
And I looked forward to becoming, because I wasn't a freshman class, let's say junior, senior class secretary at University High School. I wanted to become the secretary at the University of Hawaii freshman class. And so at the freshman class, I ran for office. I campaigned hard and whatever. And guess what? I got elected. And so I became that freshman class secretary. And then the sophomore year came along, and I automatically ran for sophomore class secretary. But what happened there is that my friend, Elsie, also ran, so she and I ran against each other, And I thought to myself, I can campaign hard. I could probably win this election because I was a freshman class secretary. But then I thought to myself, Elsie's father, who happened to be a minister, well actually a priest, I guess, for the Hompa Hokanji, which is a Japanese tradition. Well, anyway, the thing is, he might be so disappointed if his daughter didn't win, because she was a sophomore and be disappointed. And so I didn't campaign very much, and I watched her really do a strong campaign, whatever. I kind of supported it, but I didn't actively do it, because I was a candidate. But I took a very, very back seat and whatever. And Elsie won the election, and I was so happy for her. I was happy for her. But again, the thing that happened, which happened when I was in high school, where this election, and who counted the ballots and whatever, said, Evelyn, you lost by 1 vote. In other words, I was the one who voted for her instead of for me. Otherwise, I would have gotten the position. But, I was okay with that. I was glad she won and, got the opportunity. But it's a lesson that I learned that sometimes you have to be less humble and sometimes think about your own future.
Thank you. How about college?
After I graduated from university, high school, there were 26 in our graduating class. Then I always wanted to become a teacher, and I always wanted to go to University of Hawaii. And so when I graduated from high school, I, of course, enrolled in University of Hawaii, and I started my career at university.
Okay. At the university, did you also take leadership role?
And I looked forward to becoming, because I wasn't a freshman class, let's say junior, senior class secretary at University High School. I wanted to become the secretary at the University of Hawaii freshman class. And so at the freshman class, I ran for office. I campaigned hard and whatever. And guess what? I got elected. And so I became that freshman class secretary. And then the sophomore year came along, and I automatically ran for sophomore class secretary. But what happened there is that my friend, Elsie, also ran, so she and I ran against each other, And I thought to myself, I can campaign hard. I could probably win this election because I was a freshman class secretary. But then I thought to myself, Elsie's father, who happened to be a minister, well actually a priest, I guess, for the Hompa Hokanji, which is a Japanese tradition. Well, anyway, the thing is, he might be so disappointed if his daughter didn't win, because she was a sophomore and be disappointed. And so I didn't campaign very much, and I watched her really do a strong campaign, whatever. I kind of supported it, but I didn't actively do it, but that's also a candidate. But I took a very, very back seat and whatever, and Elsie won the election, and I was so happy for her. I was happy for her. But again, the thing that happened, which happened when I was in high school, where you've been humble and wanted somebody else to get the honors, to get it, beside yourself.
Okay. In third grade?
And the following year was a junior year at University of Hawaii. And this time I ran for this, not for the junior class secretary, but I ran for the student body secretary. So I was running for the Senate, the student body's position. And I ran as a student body secretary. And I campaigned very hard. And of course, I was known because I was very much involved in the drama club and the chorus and 2 or 3 organizations, the teachers' education and so forth and whatever. And so I won the election, so I became the student body secretary.
Wow. Sounds like you had exciting, busy life at the university.
Oh, yes. I got involved in that. And each time when I needed to be, I got to be the best that I could be. This was what happened at my grandmother's deathbed. She looked at me and she said, "Evelyn, always be the best that you can be."
Did you know what profession you wanted to pursue after college?
Absolutely. I knew from a very young age that I would like to become an educator, a teacher. I remember being in the 2nd or 3rd grade and getting my mother's precious collection of used buttons that she would be saving after the buttons fell off clothing or whatever. And she saved them in a box, and I would line them up. Nice, neat rows and nice, neat columns. And I would teach them how to add, how to subtract, and how to read, and how to write, and how to speak. Because that was my ambition. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed my teachers, and I wanted to become an educator.
Did you have guiding principle that led you to pursue a teaching career?
Yes, we all have a guiding principle to help us we pursue goals that we want to accomplish. And I know that what my grandmother had explained to me when I was I guess I was still in middle school when she passed away. And then the important thing is that she did say that I should try my very best. And that, I would think, is my guiding principle, in that I always looked for best. I did know back in elementary school that I would have to complete my education, complete my 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, and go on to middle school, and go on to high school, and go on to college, and go on to the School of Education, and pursue my degree.
Right. So are you still involved in education? How long have you been an educator?
Absolutely. I am still involved in education. In the summertime, I am fortunate enough to be part of SARE's summer youth program in the Pima County Summer Youth Program. And what the program is, that we select students who are sophomores, juniors, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors in high school who are not doing well in their academic career, and give them a chance to go to summer school, from 2 to 6 weeks, depending on the funding that we received that year. And I hired the teachers to teach the courses, and we also help the students maintain the experience in working with the youth working program, and we have a chance to make a difference in people's lives, because education is a way in which you touch students and help them form some of their. And if they had not been doing well in reading or writing or mathematics or whatever, then we have a way of helping them really understand the principles involved in succeeding and getting on to the career and working toward their future. We also include a job training skills program, which is part of Pima County Summer Youth Program. And the students get paid to go to summer school. And I'm very fortunate to be part of that experience.
Well, we were fortunate to have you in the community as well. So you mentioned this a little bit, but I like to ask you, what is teaching to you?
Teaching to me is life experience. When you come down to it, teaching is the force that helps other students. Well, what you have learned, help other students learn some of the things that you have learned and pass that information on to them, and help the students see how they can make a difference in the world too. Mm. And that's what teaching is. It's a life experience.
Do you have any message for current or aspiring teachers?
Yes, there is a message to current teachers and whatever. Be the best that you can be. When you come down to it, that's the bottom line. The thing is, we all have abilities. We all can do some things well. Some things are more challenging to us. But the very important thing is, whatever it is, just be the best.
Thank you so much for your time, Evelyn. This has been wonderful experience for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. It's been a wonderful experience for me too, and a chance to share with all of you out there in the audience.
Thank you.
Thank you.